You got to sign in with Global Minds Unleashed. Here we are.
There you go. Hi, Sam. Happy Friday.
Hi, happy Friday, Emily Dobson.
Where are
You are
you?
live from Porto Alegre. I am live from Louisville, Kentucky, USA.
Ooh, I went to a NACAT conference there a few years ago.
That was 5 years ago.
Was it five?
Well, it was 5 years ago, and yeah, we had a good time.
You
We
know,
had a good time. Look, I'm next to a fern,
are you in between two ferns?
and I'm next to another fern.
Between two ferns. Okay, so this could get wild.
I'm in between two ferns. I'm not going to interview you like I interview everybody else, but yeah,
You know, I was looking at
Louisville.
your picture. You posted a picture from NACAC, the National Association for College Admissions Counseling, right?
Yeah,
From Louisville. It was you, Juan Camilo, and it was Cookie.
yeah. Octavio Hidalgo.
And I think I took that picture.
You know, you can zoom in on Juan Camilo Tamayo's glasses,
And see if
and
it
they're reflective, and and see who took the picture. I was trying, but I couldn't quite pick it out.
the
So
reason I think it was me is because I distinctly remember you going, wait, let me get my prop and going to get your Louisville Slugger bat. So either I was standing right there or I took the picture
I love
because
it. Yeah,
you have three of my favorite people, right?
that 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 whole experience with the Louisville Slugger Bat. So with Duolingo, we hosted our like a social. The Duolingo English test hosted a social at the Louisville Slugger Museum, and it was a great time. And at the end, I somebody said, "Well, if you're here, like a great gift souvenir from here is they'll engrave on the back anything you want, like Happy Birthday, Mom, or anything." And so I was like, "Well, let's do the Duolingo English test on it," and just like, and then Octavio and I were like brainstorming. We like get institutions that accept the Duolingo English test to sign the bat. So we would walk around with our prop, and we would walk around the college fair. Octavio, he played some baseball in Venezuela. He's like 6'1". I'm 6 foot. We're not small guys. We're walking around with a baseball bat in the middle of like a college fair with like I got Keith Einstein from TCU is one of my other pictures with that. Lee Coffin from Dartmouth. I have a photo of him like getting ready to swing the bat because tough they were Dartmouth was an early adopter, and so it was a great time. So you took that photo, and now I'm back. Now I'm back. My second time in Louisville,
Well,
and I'm
and
here for a different conference entirely.
are you there for different bourbons as well and whiskeys?
Yeah, different bourbons, different whiskeys. I had a tequila yesterday, which is just because the people I was with they
I
drink
don't think you're
tequila.
supposed to have tequila when you're in Louisville. I
You
feel like
probably not.
I feel like you went the wrong direction. It's a great place. Like I had never been there. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Charming, quaint streets and shops to go visit, and obviously a great place for educators to meet, right? It's interesting. It seems to continue to have conferences.
yeah. They have a large enough convention center to be able to host, right?
Yeah,
So that's key.
a huge one,
And
right?
then they have enough social life as well. So this conference is yeah. So there's a session that I'm gonna run over to in a little bit.
Right. Well, I can give you your headline.
So well let me just tell you a little bit for our viewers out there, right?
Oh, go.
There,
Yeah.
there there's potential from headlines from conferences as well. I'll do a little recap on the conference. And 5 years ago, you and I were here for NACAC, which is behind you there, NACAC, National Association of College Admissions Counseling. We are here this time for the NAGAP, the National Association of Graduate Admissions Professionals. And so
Okay.
this is new to me, like Emily, because I, you and I mean, mostly focused on the bachelor's degree, the community colleges, the universities at the undergraduate level. But here we have the leaders of with admissions and enrollment management for the graduate level, the different colleges. About half of the colleges in the United States are centralized and half are decentralized at the graduate level.
Okay,
What
what
that
do you
means is like, what that means, a place like Carnegie Mellon
mean?
will have a bunch of colleges, engineering, business, everything. Every college does their own admissions,
Oh,
right?
wow. So
Which
they do
makes
their own graduate admissions for every different type of diploma they offer in the graduate sector.
every type. So, and so you can have 17 different like processes at a university, and then about half of them are centralized to where it all kind of streams into the one enrollment management system funnel.
Why?
And
Do you
why decentralized? I was having a really great conversation with Jennifer Spire from Carnegie Mellon about this recently, and the importance of trying to centralize it, but also allowing faculty to have autonomy. So each individual faculty, not individual faculty, but the faculty within the college, like they have programs that they admit students into it. And it's more like the UK, where the faculty wants to know who they're enrolling because they're going to work with them very directly. And whereas at the undergraduate level in the United States, you can apply for anything and then transfer into any different college. Graduate level, you're in that program, you're with that professor wants to be engaged. And so there's a whole lot more individualization in the process, but not at every place. I'm learning a lot anyway at this conference.
Oh, that's a great answer. You know, Europe does that a lot. They put their faculty on
Yep.
admissions teams, and you have to write your letter of motivation or your statement addressing the dean of the faculty of the school in which you want to study.
100%. I get it. Makes sense to me.
No,
So,
faculty is a far removed, unfortunately, part of the admissions process, but that's for another headline.
yeah. So I'm gonna move over here so my colleague for M Square Media can sit at the booth and chat with other people. But I wanted that as a little background. And then I got 10 minutes before a session I want to go to on evaluation credentialing. And so I'm going to head to that in about 10 minutes. But I know that you have a headline for me.
I do. You know, I follow the HEA group, which I think I told you about it. They're a group that do a wonderful dive into educational data and then bring it to the surface and break it down.
I love it.
So the HEA group, and they have a wonderful blog, and it's good reading for the layman's eyes, for the person that likes numbers. So I got this from them, and it's interesting that you bring up graduate degrees because that's what we're going to talk about today. So I broke this into two pieces, right? Broke it up into two pieces. So hold on, let's see here. I don't even know if it's going to share in the right place. I'm going to stop share here.
I saw a pink background and some numbers.
I'm going to go. Oh, you did see it. Okay, so I'm going to go back and make sure, because I want to make sure it records this correctly. Okay. Can you see it?
Name that master's program. I can see all the numbers. Yeah.
Okay, so these are the 5 most popular master's programs in the US. And I would love to see how many of them you think you can get right.
Oh, well, I'll answer that question. How many I think I can get right is I'm gonna shoot for 0, so I can be pleasantly surprised if I get any of them.
These 2, go. Name 5 different degrees.
All right, these are the most popular master's programs. I'm gonna go with an MBA.
Okay, correct. Keep going.
Yeah. Master's education.
Okay, keep going.
Master's in information technology. And so this is tough for me because I'm like, graduate, international or domestic, and I'm much more in the international mindset. Master's in education, master's in business administration, master's in information technology, master's in finance. It's not, I'm sure.
You're not doing too
And
bad.
master's in
It's killing
I'm trying to
you.
think of some of the conversations I've had here with different people and what their specialization is. And well, it's not one, but I had dinner last night with the director of admissions at the Princeton Theological Seminary, which is cool. And how many international students they have at the Princeton Theological Seminary. That's not one of the most popular masters. So information technology, finance, education, master's in business administration, and there must be some computer science.
Do you see this? Here they are. So business administration, educational administration and supervision, registered nursing, social work,
Interesting.
teacher education, and professional development. These are the top 5, right? Now,
Social work.
yeah,
The
cool.
registered nursing one is actually the credential evaluation session I'm going to go to is about nursing. So that's interesting. Okay.
And what's interesting too, Sam, is if you go to a public university, these are the earnings that you get for each of those 5. If you go to a private university, these are the earnings after graduation. And then if you go to a for-profit, those are the earnings. But what killed me is, what do you think this other black mark is between the earnings? Take a wild guess. What's the opposite of earnings?
Oh, the cost to gain that degree.
Keep going. Kind of. What happens to you if you don't cover costs? You go into
debt or default public debt.
So I was just looking across the board at, if I studied, business or social work at a public versus a private versus a for-profit, how much would I be making and how much might I owe?
Afterwards.
And we always have this big conversation, right? Like, oh, I got to go to a private school. I'm definitely gonna make more money after I leave, after I graduate. And I'm looking at this chart and I'm thinking, God, there's not a significant amount of difference in how much you make.
No, because at the end of the day, the company is gonna pay the employees, roughly whatever they can.
Look at the difference between, and you look at those jobs and you're like, social work, education, those are tough jobs, right? But look at the difference between if you went into social work, what you would earn and what your debt may be. Like, you would earn $58,930 a year graduating from a private university and owe almost $68,976. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to want to love what you do to fall into one of those categories.
I agree with you.
And
I agree with you entirely.
I'm still on the edge about for-profits. I still don't know how I feel about for-profit education and looking at these numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I worked for a for-profit company that put so much of the profit back into the education. And so I know how powerful for-profit can be, because you can build up and grow. But for-profit higher education has, and they shut it down. Like, the government went after it quite a bit to kind of stop this. So
you automatically you look at that. Every single one you earn less coming out of. If you go to a for-profit school, your earnings are less for every major.
Yeah.
I mean, that must say something, right? To me, that says that people say, do you care? Do companies care where you graduate from? I think there's something that needs to be investigated there. I wonder.
I think companies absolutely care where you graduated from. And that's counter to what I advise students a little bit. And that's counter to what I think is good for society. But they absolutely do.
No, I had a
They
conversation. I
start
don't
to
know.
look. I think the for-profit just has the bad reputation and the bad.
Yeah, it
Sorry,
does.
what?
I just had a conversation the other day with a family about, where does it matter where? We heard it matters where. And I think that's an in-depth conversation. I mean, where matters still in Brazil, for sure. I don't know if I see that trend elsewhere, right? Because we can say that we've seen kids that have graduated
There's
that maybe aren't as interesting as kids that have graduated from public schools.
100%. Absolutely, we can say that. Gloria and Terry from Initial View had done some work on this with China and the ability that students had to go back and actually get jobs depending on the type of university they went to in the United States. I think they did, or they told me about it, or I was in the room. I think they have some. I think it matters going back to a home country. I think it matters less within the United States, but still matters quite a bit more than I would like it to. For me, at the end of the day, though, half the people who graduate each year from an Ivy League university are highly selected. Half the people who graduate are below average amongst their peers, because that's the way averages work. Well, not average, I suppose, but you have 100 people that graduate, 49 of them are below the middle.
Yeah.
Because, right?
Do you have
There's exceptions who have graduated from wonderful institutions, but are they more impressive than the person who finished first, second, or third at any other university? I wouldn't think so.
No, I've never seen that. And that's such an interesting
I
conversation.
haven't either.
I've never been able to say this kid graduating from X elite school has done better than this kid. And if you're measuring like happiness or success, I mean the variables to each kid are so different. But I get this all the time. I'm sure you did too. Did you ever have families come in and said, my kid wants to apply to all the Ivy Leagues? I love this comment.
I didn't ever have kids that came in, because I think we worked with families early enough and often enough that they knew that was not going to be an appropriate approach. But the Ivy Leagues are so different, right? I would love, and I know this will never happen, Emily, I would love for the Ivy League to create their own app. The Ivy app.
Application.
The Ivy.
Like their own application.
One application, but and I framed this out before. It'll never happen. But for these families that want to go to,
you're breaking up.
They don't really care. They just want to get any Ivy. I know I'm probably. This Wi-Fi at NAGAP is brought to you by EAB and our dear friend Jamie Kanke. Jamie, hey Jamie. So one app to rule them all. But the one app would be where you apply and you indicate where you would like to go, and you can choose 3. But we can create an algorithm and a system that evaluates based off of everything that you've contributed to the application, maybe which Ivy League institution would be best for you.
Oh.
And if if one of those 3 accepts you, then cool, that you have to go. And they would share, like, we've already accepted this person. We're one of their top three. You know, this is where we go. But if none of those three accept you, the algorithm and the system would say, hey, actually, Harvard, they didn't pick you as the top three, but their profile actually matches you best. So then we go down the line. Would you be interested in this candidate?
Expecting a lot of collaboration and transparency there.
Well, they already collaborate and transpire. No, they're already transparent with one another. They have their own, all the admissions officers from the Ivy League schools plus two, Stanford, MIT, they get together every summer and discuss all of this stuff anyway.
I heard that. And I wasn't sure if it was true or not.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They all get together. And because they do that, and I see the positive of them doing it. I can also see the negative, but I see the positive. And if I assume best intent, what I've just proposed would really help every application. Because if you could only choose three or two, whatever, you have to then decide what type of environment, what type of education is best for me. And then the applicant is more informed going into it, but they're not so informed that they actually know that Columbia and the first year experience at Columbia is exactly what their curious, intellectually stimulated literary mind needs.
Mm-hmm.
But they were afraid of, maybe they were afraid of the big city, so they avoided Penn and Columbia.
I mean, they're so distinctly different, these universities.
So nobody should apply to all 8, of course.
Right. I don't, like, okay. Reframe that though. There are some kids that will throw their hat into all of them, but those kids are so versatile and they're not
They'd be
usually,
fine.
I've never seen a US kid do that and be fine with it, but there's a versatility that sometimes comes with international kids where they're like, I just want to study. I'll be so proud and happy to study where I can get in, do my program, get some financial aid help, that they make it and they make the best of it. Like they create their entire narrative.
Yeah.
And they're not really bothered as much by the environment and they make all bad things good things. I mean, this is the rare exceptional student.
They make all bad things good things.
Yeah, they run into a wall.
They do.
They start thinking, how do I go through it? How do I go over it? How do I go around it? Like there's just no stopping them.
How do I paint it? Because I got the wall, I can't get around it, go through it or over it. I might as well paint it and make it look good.
Creativity, number one thing looked for on a skill set these days for all companies and kids from all majors.
And I wonder, as I go off to my sessions that I need to go see here at the graduate level, if creativity is as valued.
Well, do ask about these 5 majors, how popular they are, and I'd like to know how popular graduate school has been for international students, because I see more graduate programs traveling. So I'm wondering if they're pushing into the international market. Can you find that out for us?
They're absolutely in the market, and we should bring on Education USA to a Global Minds Unleashed, because this is Headlines Unleashed, where we're talking about these for-profit, not public and private, these 5 programs. But for our Global Minds Unleashed, if we brought in a couple of the REACs and a couple of the advisors, we could talk about that, because the Education USA Opportunity Fund that they have, which supports these high achieving, low income students, right? With all sorts of work along the way. They've always been undergraduate, but some of them are starting to do graduate as well, because the Education USA offices are seeing more graduate interest, and graduate recruiters are traveling more. So let's schedule that for Global Minds Unleashed with a couple Education USA.
I'm on it. I'll talk to you after your conference. Have a good one, Sammy.
All right.